scenarios behind, then you'll start to see, okay, well, where am I right now? Where are we with the news that Colonel Church brought over? Where are we with the news we heard at AFA? Where are we with the news of the possible furlough and sequestration? And then if I look on either side of those, how do I manage between where I am and where I'm going? All right. Jody, I've got my phone somewhere with the bios here handy. And I think we're going to go to the first one. You ready? All right, so I think what we could do is if we could get Chrissy to come up on video, we'll get everybody else to go off video, and I will read the bio, and then Chrissy, when you're ready to start, we'll go.
Perfect.
Chrissy Cordingley, the dedicated managing director of Ignite Purpose Canada, champions the idea that effective leaders must prioritize personal growth to inspire those they lead. Her career began in health and safety, where she elevated organizations from minimal compliance to the realm of award-winning people programs. Chrissy's commitment to personal growth recently culminated in her achievement of the Career and Employment Coach certification. In addition to her coaching prowess, she is a host of the podcast and streaming television show Healthwise 360, accessible through programs like Amazon Fire, Roku TV, and Apple TV. Chrissy's leadership style is uniquely defined by her openness, engaging storytelling, and a dash of humor, establishing her as a true leader by example. And so she's taking the example of being the first. Could we do a little round of jazz clapping?
Snaps. Thank you. I didn't find the trauma-informed life. The trauma-informed life found me. And her name was Brenda. And she marched into my life demanding to be accepted and for me to be her leader. Over a decade ago, I was part of a sales organization with a mission to enrich the lives of women. And often we had meet and greet events, usually every Monday, where guests could come and learn about who we were and decide if they would like to join us. One evening, this very tough, rough woman stomped into the venue. If you could see her aura, you would believe it was just covered in daggers and jagged edges, just ready to cut you. And she said, "I'm Brenda. This better not be a scam." And she sat down with her arms crossed like this in front of her. And I delivered my presentation, scared to death of her. Brenda complained loudly and questioned me on everything I said that evening. When it was finally time to wrap up after what I felt like was the longest meeting of my entire life, Brenda came up to me and said, "I'll see you next week." And I said, "Oh, you're coming back?" And she said, "Yes, and I'll bring my membership fee next week." Brenda wanted to be a permanent fixture of my group, and I dreaded it. I dreaded the next Monday, just hoping she wouldn't show up. How was I going to handle this obnoxious and rude woman? If I can't manage the situation and take charge, what does that say about me as a leader? But I was smart enough to realize that when there's fear or confusion, sometimes the best thing you can do is call a trusted friend. And I shared with my mentor all the reasons why I need to tell this Brenda person why she cannot join our group because of all the reasons it was going to be really hard for me. And my mentor gently stopped me and said, "Maybe the lesson in all of this is this, Chrissy. It isn't about you. What does Brenda need?" And those words really had me thinking and pondering. Who am I to deny someone an opportunity? If she shows up, I made a decision to welcome her, no matter how afraid of her I was. And sure enough, next Monday, Brenda rolled on in as tough as ever. And she walked up to me, reached into her bra, and grabbed the $50 she needed for the membership fee. And I just kept listening in my head to my mentor. And I just kept thinking, maybe the judge in me thinks we do not need her, but what if she needs us? And she showed up every single Monday. She was right in our faces. She challenged everything everyone said or did. She was like a hurricane. And at the end of every meeting, she said that it was great. I'll see you next week. She never gave up. And people would scatter when she walked into the room. But I always did my best to meet her with a smile and make her feel welcome. And those strange things started to happen. One night at the end of a meeting, she came up to me as always, but she wrapped her arms around me and hugged me. The next week, she started smiling at other women. And then she started to listen to other people without playing devil's advocate to all their opinions. Her language choices started to soften. Eventually, she started bringing cookies for us that she baked herself. She even hosted a party in her own home, and we all went. We wanted to go. She asked one day if we could talk, and she wanted to know how she could contribute to our group goals. And I was really excited, and I happily shared sort of my visions and dreams for us as a group. And then I asked her, what are your goals, Brenda? What do you want? And she said, well, this is why I asked, because I've never had one. I've never worked towards anything. I've never been in a place where I've been allowed to dream. And I invited her to share her story, and she did. And it was filled with illness, poverty, and horrible abuse. After that call, she said, I don't really care about money or business success. All I want, and I already feel like I already have it, is just a community that I belong to. I had been a mentor to her for 1 year when I got the call that she died in her sleep peacefully from a heart attack. She only had one friend outside of our group, and that was her life partner. And so our team organized a service at one of our homes for him. And he shared at that service that just a few days prior, Brenda told him this last year was the best year of her life. She finally found people she felt safe with. And I said, I'm the one that is grateful. She collided into me like a tidal wave and stuck to me like a barnacle. She taught me the most I could learn about leading and loving people through their scar tissue and fear until they can see clearly again for themselves. Now it really is a mission for me to see the person underneath the armor of negative behavior. Behavior is actions that we take, but those actions do not always match with who we are on the inside. There's 3 lessons that I want to leave you with about trauma-informed leadership that I really took away from my time with Brenda. Number 1, when you're unsure if you can hold a safe enough space for someone that is wrestling with trauma, then reach out for help. I reached out to my mentor, and I'm so glad I did, because if I hadn't, I may never have let Brenda in. I may have told her she could not have joined, and she may never have found a place that brought out her peace instead of her survival. Number 2, when people are loud, unruly, or difficult, they're not always crying for attention, but often they're craving connection. And 3, as a leader, you may need to be willing to step into the ring of fire with the person that is on fire. But you may need to make it more about what they need than about what you want from them. I couldn't heal her trauma. I couldn't solve her problems. Boundaries are very important to minimize vicarious trauma. But I could stand beside her and be a safe place to land as she learned to build connections with others and believe in herself. And I just want to finish with a quote that I really love by Carolyn Swara. The more power and privilege you have, positional or not, the more accountability you have to close this gap and welcome people into discussion and understanding or sharing so that both experiences can be valued. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go off video. And for everyone in the room, we're going to take about a 2-minute silent reflection. That can be a closed eye process. That can be journaling in your notebook. We'll have the next speaker come on in about 1 minute and 19 seconds. Hey, Jody, give me about 10 seconds before you turn the bio on for Donna. So friends, on your seats or in your hand, you got my phone number and you got the chaplain's information. Over these 7 presentations, if something touches you in a way that you need some help, let somebody know. What I know about this work is that when we go this deep, there are triggers that can erupt. As you think about your airmen back in your units, the folks you know are dealing with this, when you talk about it, I'm hoping that we're ready for those conversations. Readier. Okay, Jody, can we have Donna's bio, please? And Donna, could you come up on video and wave a little hello? Hold on. That's way too big. There she is. Hello. Okay. Hi, Donna.
Hi.
Donna Clements is on a personal quest to inspire humanity to thrive through trauma. As a writer, speaker, and trauma-informed life coach, Donna assimilates her own story of thriving through a lifetime of familial trauma to inspire others to do the same. Based within the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, Donna's coaching model, Self Trek, a journey of inspiration, discovery, and progress, invites clients to be seen, heard, and understood. She considers it an honor and a privilege for the opportunity to incorporate grace, intuition, candor, curiosity, and compassion into a life-evoking experience. Donna believes in every human's capacity to thrive through trauma. Donna, thank you for being with us today. Could we do a jazz clap? Welcome, please.
Thank you, Dr. Womack. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, everyone. This is my personal story, and I haven't told it to anyone in its full context. So if my voice shakes, if you see fear on my face, it's all real. I am married to my best friend for over 30 years. I'm the mother to an awesome daughter and a wonderful son-in-law. My faith sustains me. I'm the proud daughter of a World War II Army veteran who served as a medic in Germany. I live, as I said, Dr. Womack read, on the Blue Ridge Escarpment where North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia converge. I am surrounded by the land of the noonday sun, the Nantahala National Forest, and our home sits at the base of Whiteside Mountain, one of the tallest cliffs on the eastern North America. My neighbor stands on her patio and looks up to the sky as the International Space Station flies by and says, "Hi, Dad." Her father is Gunther Wendt. He was the last face seen by many of the astronauts of the mid-20th century as the hatch was closed as they embarked on their journey. I have approached my message today from that very perspective. Tom Hanks even referenced Mr. Wendt in the Apollo 13 movie, Where Did Gunther Went? I have asked myself, what would Gunther say to you today? What is trauma? From my perspective in the National Forest, trauma is a bobcat literally walking by our living room window, stopping and making eye contact with us. What is thriving through trauma? Again, from our perspective, it is a mother deer chasing a bobcat across our front lawn in protection for her fawn. I would like to use the acronym of THRIVE for this presentation. Thank you, Dr. Womack, for that great tip. I have led myself to thrive through trauma, and I will use the acronym to help give you some advice, some pointers on how I did so. Truth, the T is truth. You must face the truth. For me, what appeared to be a normal childhood I absolutely knew something was desperately wrong. I always questioned if I would survive, and I always wondered how to thrive. Several things occurred simultaneously in my adult years. I was misdiagnosed by a psychologist who said I was born depressed, I would live depressed, and I would die depressed. Finally, after again leading myself to this point, I found a psychiatrist who, after 1 year of cognitive therapy, finally gave me a diagnosis: complex childhood PTSD and existing complex familial trauma. I always knew something was wrong. There was no connection, there was no trust, there was no confidence. So about this time, I took a solo trek through Israel, looking again how to survive through trauma. I came very close to battle trauma. Became very close to bombs. I existed in barbed wire encampments, which they call kibbutzes. And I witnessed barbed wire. After about 10 days there, my husband finally said, "It's time to come home." When I came home, my husband picked me up at the airport, and on the way home became my truth day. All trauma has a truth day. And he explained to me information that he had learned about my family while I was gone. Everything from that point to this point now makes sense. Truth became even more significant to me as, again, in this simultaneous chain of events, I became responsible legally and morally, scripturally, for one of my family members. To give you a reference, may I suggest the movie Duel? It is a Steven Spielberg movie from the 70s. It's made for TV, and it is a psycho thriller. I was chained to the faceless image driving the 18-wheeler fuel tanker that had always taunted me in my rearview mirror. I decided to make my trauma have meaning. The second letter, the H, is heal. By pursuing a career as a trauma-informed life coach, I made it my intent to help others learn how to heal and thrive through trauma. Self-responsibility was the key for me, and I made it an intent of my own just constant pursuit to be healed in my soul, in my mind, in my spirit, and in my body. I led myself to the truth of trauma, which ultimately made sense. The R is research. I conducted family interviews, having family members tell me, "Oh, you weren't special as a child. You were pitied as a child." I wrote my story. I created a family tree. I made it again my pursuit for the research of all of this. What did it mean, and what did it have in store for me in my pursuit to help others? The I is I. We're all trained, it's not me. It's not about me. In this case, it is. It is about me, because I cannot love myself as I'm called to love others if I don't address my own issues. The V is to victor. You can either choose to be a victim or a victor. And you say, well, what does that mean exactly? It's a conscious decision. I will thrive. I will survive. And I have absolutely not known that up until just actually a few weeks ago. And the E is energy. I've had to dredge up energy that I never thought I could have to understand what I again, am thriving through. I've asked myself again, what would Gunther say to you? According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, every issue regarding human nature, regarding how trauma affects us, is mandatory. We need connection to others to survive and thrive. The still face experiment of the 1970s of a mother holding her infant with absolutely no facial expressions. Again, what would Gunther's facial expressions be to you right now? What are my facial expressions speaking to you right now? I sense that I'm being very earnest and very like, are you getting this? I have approached this message from Gunther's perspective as I close the hatch door of my message. And I would say to you, I believe in you. I believe in you as a leader. I believe in you as a follower. I believe in you in any stage that you are in your pursuit to be whole and healed through trauma, or in your pursuit to help others. I do believe in the human capacity to thrive through trauma. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you. I'm going to hit the pause and reset. We'll go for a 2-minute reflection. We'll do this 6 times, including this one. If that's closed eyes, if that's something you want to write or draw, with Jody, we will bring in the next speaker in just about 1.5 minutes. All righty. My friend Catherine, can you start your video? Give us a little smile and a wave. Awesome, friends. Here is my friend Catherine. Lawyer and author Catherine Manning provides training and consultation to help organizations better support their employees, clients, and the communities they serve through challenging times. She wrote The Empathic Workplace: 5 Steps to a Compassionate, Calm, and Confident Response to Trauma on the Job, and has worked on issues of trauma and victimization for more than 25 years. For 15 years, she served as a senior attorney advisor with the Executive Office for United States Attorneys, where she guided the Justice Department's response to victims on a wide range of cases, including the Boston Marathon bombing, the Madoff investment fraud, and the South Carolina AME church shooting. Her work has been recognized in publications like the Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, Newsweek, Thrive Global, and CEO World. Clients include Walmart, UNICEF, the University of Arizona, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Air Force, who have built stronger and more resilient teams with her help. Welcome, welcome. I want to do a jazz clap. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, JW. Thank you all for being here. So I know that we have trauma all around us, especially these days with COVID and environmental disasters, mass violence, political upheaval, and more. If you work with people, you're already working with people in trauma. I also know that as much as we want to be trauma informed and compassionate and skillful in responding to trauma in the workplace, it's not easy. I've been doing this more than 25 years. It's still not easy for me to respond well when somebody approaches me in a work environment to share something really heavy that they're dealing with. So what I'm going to do with my time here with you today is teach you how to do it well. I'm going to teach you the 5 steps to a compassionate response to trauma on the job. It's called the laser technique. I wrote a whole book about it. I'm going to teach it to you in about 5 minutes. So we're going to go through this fast. Are you ready? Somebody knocks on your door and says, "Do you have a minute? I need to talk to you about something personal." Before you do anything else, get yourself in the right frame of mind for this conversation that might be kind of heavy. So shut down the email you were writing, silence your alerts, maybe turn your monitor so that you can really focus on the person. Step 1 of the laser technique is listen, and this is the most important step. If you can do nothing else for somebody who is experiencing trauma or distress, but listen, you will have done quite a lot. Listening is more than just sitting there quietly. We're talking about active listening, and that means creating the circumstances where the person feels comfortable opening up. How do we do that? Ask questions, nod, encourage them to go on. You're trying to communicate that it is okay for them to share this with you. Keep an eye on your body language because it's very common for us to unconsciously adopt a defensive stance, arms crossed, face, sort of frowning. Try to adopt an open and neutral posture as they are talking. Step 2, acknowledge. It's very common. We do a great job of active listening the whole time they're talking. And then as soon as they're done, we want to jump right to next steps. Here's who you need to talk to. I know just what you need to do. That might be great information, but before you get there, they need to know that you heard them. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you have to acknowledge, you have to show them that you heard what they've said. Acknowledgement is a really quick statement, but it is the fulcrum of the whole conversation. It can be something simple like, "Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. I'm really sorry about everything you're going through. That sounds hard." Just a really quick statement like that. And it's kind of the key to the entire conversation. What you want to avoid are responses that either deny or distract from what they've just shared. Denial is something like, "I'm sure it's all going to work out just fine," or "You probably didn't mean it like that." Distraction is something like, "Oh, I had a friend who went through something similar and she's just fine today. Let me tell you all about her." And now we're talking about the friend. Have you ever heard the expression holding space? What you want is just hold this space for the person. "I'm really sorry. That sounds hard." That's all you need. So we've done listen, acknowledge. Step 3 is share. This is where we share information with the person. In a work environment where people are coming to you for help, one of the key ways we could help them is by giving them some information. I saw in my work with crime victims, everybody wanted more information. They wanted to know what happened next, who knew what when, what was going to happen. And I realized that in those times in our lives where we feel like everything is turned upside down, we feel very out of control. And as they say, knowledge is power. So when we share information, we give them a little bit of more control over their situation. So share with them information. If this is an incident of workplace violence, everybody's going to want to know what happened, who was involved, and what steps were being taken. So share factual information if you have it. Even where you don't have factual information, though, there's still information you can share. You can share process information. Here's how to file a complaint. Here's how decisions are going to be made on this issue. Here's who's involved in making those decisions and when we expect the decision to come down. You can share values information, either your agency, your organization's values, or even your own personal values. We take these issues very seriously, or I take these issues very seriously. That can be helpful. And then finally, even sharing the unknowns, the things that you're not sure about can be helpful. So for instance, you could say, "I don't actually know how complaints are filed, but let me see what I can find out." Or, "It's not clear when we're going to have a decision on it, but rest assured, we will give you the information as soon as we've got it. When we are upfront about the things we don't know, rather than avoiding the issue, trying to sidestep it, or kind of pretending that we know more than we do, that's how we show respect for people, and it garners trust. So we've done listen, acknowledge, share. Step 4 is empower. This step is as important for us as listeners as it is for the person in trauma. A lot of us are fixers. We see somebody in pain and we want to make it better. This step reminds us that this is their path to walk and we can't walk it for them. Instead, what we can do is give them a few tools for the road, some tools to take with them. A great place to start is, how can I help? And then listen, what is the help that they're looking for? Maybe they need mental health supports. I hope that you all know about 988, which here in the US is our national mental health crisis line, available 24/7 for free by call or by text. Maybe what they need is security options. You know, how do I get a restraining order? How do I let security know that I'm in a violent relationship? Maybe what they need is flexible work options. Maybe what they need is something you have no idea about, like addiction support or where to find elder care. In almost every metropolitan area in our country, if you call 211, they can connect you with local resources that can help. So we've done listen, acknowledge, share, empower. Step 5 is return. This is both literally a return to the person to check in on them later and let them know that you continue to be a source of support. And also, importantly, it's a return to ourselves. Supporting others in trauma takes a toll on us, and it's important that we take good care of ourselves. My best tips on that: 1, have some sort of daily reset, something you're doing every day just for yourself. I do a little bit of yoga, a little bit of meditation every morning. Maybe you go for a run every morning. Maybe you play the piano at night. Maybe you play with your dog at lunchtime. Have something that you're doing just for yourself. Number 2, have a community of support, people that you can lean on when you're having a hard time. I hope each of you right now can think of 3 people that you could call when you're having a hard day. Those people are there for you, so make use of them when you need them. And then finally, know your warning signs that you're beginning to suffer from burnout or compassion fatigue. Warning signs can be something physical, like a persistent sore throat or a headache, insomnia. Maybe it's a sharper edge to your sarcasm. One of them for me is when I start swearing a lot. I'm not somebody who swears a lot very often. So if I suddenly start sounding like a sailor, I know there's something wrong. Just recognize your own warning signs. And when you see them, double down on those first 2 steps. So your self-care routine and leaning on others for support. So those are the 5 steps: listen, acknowledge, share, empower, and return. It's called the laser technique, and I hope it helps you to stay laser focused on the person in trauma and how you can better support them. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, my friend. We'll do a reset here in the room and return to ourselves. We'll do that through just about another 1.5 minutes of any kind of silent reflection. If you had been closing your eyes, maybe this time try and write something down. If you had been writing words, maybe draw a picture. We'll bring up the next speaker in about 1:20. Okay, and I'm going to read the long one because it's so beautiful. Stand by. Here I go. Did I get her to smile? Yeah, she's smiling. All right, everybody. Anne is a dedicated licensed clinical social worker within the mental health care industry, specializing in addiction and trauma recovery, along with expertise in sand tray therapy. During her military career, Anne held roles such as a company commander during a deployment to Iraq and as an aide-de-camp to a 2-star general. After 8 years of honorable service as a Signal Corps officer in the United States Army, Anne earned her Master of Social Work with a medical specialization from the Catholic University of America in 2014. Having experienced military life, both as a soldier and a military spouse for a combined 20 years, Anne has lived in various places, including Georgia, Korea, North Carolina, Iraq, Maryland, Texas, Hawaii, and Virginia. Currently, she serves as a therapist in trauma recovery services at the Department of Veterans Affairs. In addition, Anne volunteers with the American Red Cross as a reconnection workshop facilitator. Anne, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, JW. Good afternoon. We're here today to talk about trauma-informed leadership. This should be fun, like a roller coaster, with all the ups and downs, twists and turns, and emotions that come with it. But no, being serious, the subject is not fun, but it is important. I'd love to give you a virtual high five for being present today, because it takes courage to show up as a leader to learn more about this topic. So let's get started. First, I'd like to share with you the multifaceted perspective I'm bringing you. I'm an Army veteran. Please don't hold that against me. I was single during most of my service, but I've also served as dual military. I've been the one deployed and the one back at home waiting. After separating from service, I was a military spouse for 11 years and a full-time working mom. I don't want accolades for these aspects I'm sharing about myself, just that I'd like you to know where I'm coming from. There are so many things I wish I had done differently as leader in the military, but I know I did the best I could with the knowledge I had. If only I knew then what I know now. I hope to share that knowledge today to inspire you to make the necessary changes to be your best leader. Before we get to the knowledge piece, I'd like to encourage your personal awareness. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, great. Now with this paper, I want you to write down all your judgments about me. Don't worry, I don't want to hear them, and there's no way I can look at them. So please be brutally honest with yourself. Just don't put my name next to it. Allow yourself to stew on this. What are the automatic thoughts that jump into your mind? I've heard it all, mostly through the grapevine, but some of these comments I'm sharing with you were said to me directly. She's abrasive. There's no way that Anne has children. You probably like to use your dishwasher and eat sandwiches. You must be an officer because you wear makeup. I'm not putting you in a management position. You aren't even from here. You're working on a master's degree? I thought you'd be doing other things. And this last one takes the whipped cream and the cherry. She only got that assignment or position because of blank, blank, blank. I think you're all smart enough to fill in the blanks on your own. These stereotypes, assumptions, and judgments are there in all of us, whether we know them or not. A study done in 2015 by Amy Cuddy out of the Harvard Business School revealed some shocking statistics. 55% of first impressions are based on how you look and act. 38% are based on your tone of voice, and only 7% are on what you actually say. Okay, so now I'd like you to write what it would mean if you were to show your emotions. What would it mean if you were to cry in front of your coworkers or even your family? Some phrases I'll share with you are things I've heard from clients about this topic. These were phrases that were said to them while serving on active duty, or their beliefs about what it means to show emotion. Get a straw. Get over it, it's over. Showing emotions means I'm weak. That would mean I'm a girl or a sissy, or you're the problem after an emotion had been shared. So what does this have to do with trauma-informed leadership? I promise you that it does. Our thoughts impact how we feel and how we behave towards others. These thoughts were learned somehow. Be aware that when you, as a leader, share your thoughts, you teach those beliefs to those you lead. Are you verbalizing that showing emotions is a weakness? Or do you communicate that it takes strength and it's okay to show your emotions? I'd like to share an analogy with you to hopefully hit home how important it is for both you and those you lead to give the space to share emotions. Our society has a built-in acceptable time and place to grieve when we encounter death. Funerals. Funerals are that place. If you do not attend the funeral or you allow yourself to feel and express your emotions while you're there, where do your emotions go? Nowhere. They stay inside you. Most of us begin collecting our losses like spices in the cupboard that aren't used. They could be from losing a dog, getting fired, divorce, suicide, a Class A accident, or even miscarriage or infertility. We grieve over any loss, but it's up to us to create a place to grieve and to allow ourselves to feel our emotions. Emotions are for everyone, not just women, children, or your lowest ranking airmen. We don't lose our ability to feel emotions after we reach a certain birthday or get promoted to a certain rank. If anything, we either get good at hiding and avoiding, or we're okay with being vulnerable and allowing ourselves to go there. Trauma-informed leadership is not a concept you can completely define with words because it encompasses a feeling. So all the terminology used to define this concept, trauma-informed leadership, it must capture the feeling of safety. Are my words safe with you? And am I physically safe with you? In trauma, we lose the feeling of safety. If you as a leader create an environment where pain cannot be shared, you will lose the trust of those you are leading. As a captain serving as an aide-de-camp to a 2-star general, I didn't show emotions. At least going into that role, that was unthinkable. I wore a combat patch on my right arm and jump wings on my chest. There were no place for emotions. I was unaware that a general officer attends the funerals of every service member killed in combat until I received that call to attend one of those funerals. I'm sharing this with you because as a leader, you may think you're good at masking your emotions, but there's this tiny word called a trigger, which can make it impossible to avoid showing our emotions. We need to be real with the people we lead to let them know that emotions are real and that they're okay. So the triggers, that's what happened to me one day, attending one of those funerals. The sound of bagpipes, seeing the family members crying, getting hugged by their mother, and being asked to read their award. Yep, you guessed it, tears. Followed by an emotionless question, you good? By, you guessed it, my boss. There went that wall. These become our trauma walls that get built by having unsupportive responses from others. So as a social worker, I've been taught that it's a gift when someone brings you their pain, that they feel safe and have trust in you to share those difficult emotions. It's important in what you choose to do with the pain that's been brought to you. What's important is the response to trauma. Your response is an integral piece. So looking back at the judgments you first wrote down, think about how those make you feel. Do you feel good about the things you wrote? Are there feelings coming up? What do those thoughts and feelings say about you? This is what we need to be able to do as a trauma-informed leader, is to realize that we know nothing about the people standing in front of us. When we assume we do, the judgments become like walls. They block us from connecting to the person on the other side. It is our duty to allow those people to share their stories and show us who they are, not for us to define that for them. It's just like the quote says from Maya Angelou, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. So now that you know better, how do you plan to do better? I challenge you to define what a trauma-informed leader means to you and to create that space for those you lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks are going to take a 2-minute reflection time, and then we will bring our next speaker up. Bless you. In about 1 minute and 40 seconds. All right, Jody, give me about 15 seconds. I'll do a little talkie talk, and then if you'll bring up the slide. So some of the behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, all of these speakers are doing this at no charge to us. Literally, they are doing a buddy a favor. They have worked for more than 3 months on putting this together. Last month, all 8 of us published an article on our LinkedIn profiles with our trauma-informed leadership philosophy. And then about a month ago, we all gathered together and did a Zoom recording video cast. You'll get all of that after today as further reinforcement. I am in awe of these folks. I'm grateful that I have them in my life. And can we get the next bio up? And Jenny, if you want to come up on video. And smile and wave. I love you. Here we go. Jenny Marsh is a seasoned social worker and educator with a rich 24-year career. She is the owner and principal consultant at Jenny Marsh Consulting, LLC, where her extensive experience shines through various consulting roles. Her work spans training and teaching on topics like in trauma-informed adult learning techniques, organizational culture, virtual training, program design, grant writing, and ethics. Jenny has served as the Director of Programs for the Kansas Governor's Grants Office, an Associate Clinical Professor, and the Director of Field Education at the University of Kansas School of Social Welfare, and as the Director of the Office of Victim Services with the Kansas Department of Corrections. She holds a master's degree in social work administration from the University of Kansas, and she earned her bachelor's degree in social work from Kansas State University. Jenny, thank you for being here.
Thank you. About 20 years ago, I fell down a flight of stairs wearing very high heels like these, and I sprained the heck out of my ankle. In addition to my ankle swelling up like a balloon and turning all sorts of interesting colors, it was unbearable to put any weight on it. When I went to the ER, I got some pain medication and a few days later headed to an orthopedic doctor for treatment. I took some sick days from work until I was able to use one of those clunky walking boot things without agonizing pain. When I did go back to work, I got a parking spot next to the building, so I didn't have to walk far and was able to stay pretty much stationary throughout the day. Obviously, I can't wear these anymore without suffering, but for the most part, my ankle was able to heal because the structures were in place throughout my life, including my workplace, that allowed me to address the physical trauma. Now, let's talk about what could have happened. Let's say I pretended my ankle wasn't sprained, that it hadn't been impacted by falling down the stairs. Would that have miraculously healed it? Obviously not. Let's say I went to work with that black and blue ankle and my supervisor and my team members ignored it. Or my supervisor encouraged me to wear pants so it wouldn't be so obvious. Or my organization's policies didn't support me taking time off to recover. Or maybe the policy was there, but the implicit indication was that I would inconvenience everyone else if I took advantage of it. How might I have felt about my work environment then? And more importantly, what would have happened to my ankle? At the risk of overusing this metaphor, what if I had sprained my ankle on the stairs in my office? What if everyone I worked with had also sprained their ankles on those stairs and we were all hobbling around pretending to be fine and our leadership was happy to pretend right along with us? But I'm not here to talk about physical trauma. We are here to talk about trauma-informed leadership, which is far more concerned with emotional trauma. Emotional trauma, by the way, is 100 times more common than a sprained ankle and has a more devastating impact than a physical injury like the one I described. It changes us, as you've heard from a lot of the speakers today. It changes who we are. The majority of US adults have experienced at least one significant emotional trauma, and those numbers are higher for folks who have marginalized identities. Many of us are impacted by emotional trauma related to the work we do. When I worked with university students who were actively fighting fatal disease or homelessness when they tried their hardest to graduate, I ached for them. When I worked with survivors of violence, I would go to the homes of domestic violence victims, help them throw clothes for themselves and their kids into a bag with shaking hands. I once hid under a kitchen table with a survivor when her abuser unexpectedly showed up with a shotgun. I regularly spent hours in the ER with sexual assault victims, holding their hand while they endured an invasive exam. When I worked at the Department of Corrections, I spent hours with people who were trying to survive the murder of their loved one. And then I would spend more time with the inmate who was convicted of that murder to prepare them to talk to each other. In these roles, I didn't ever talk to anyone about what I felt, about the things I saw or the things I experienced, because they might think I couldn't do the work, or they might make me take time off, or there was so much work to do. I didn't have time to stop and slow down, and I definitely didn't have time to deal with what I was feeling. If our work is traumatizing, often we build a wall internally, something to keep those emotional reactions at bay so we can keep doing the work. But if we don't make a door to invite all those experiences and the feelings they activate out for processing at the right time and place, then they stay back there behind the wall. But all your emotions go back there: fear, anger, sadness, but also hope, love, and joy. All can get stuck there, making you numb, or the wall eventually starts to crack or maybe even explode. The culture in a work community can either reinforce the wall, not to mention contribute to the challenging emotions and experiences that pile up behind it, like Anne talked about, until we burn out completely, or it can encourage and support those who are trying to build that door. We do this by building psychological safety, giving choices, building trust, among many other things. Even as a master's level social worker, building a trauma-informed organizational culture didn't come easily to me at first. Maybe I could create a safe space with clients or in one-on-one conversations with people I supervise, like Catherine talked about, but tackling culture is a different animal. The good news is there's lots of tools available to help leaders incorporate trauma-informed principles into their culture. But first, we have to acknowledge that emotional trauma has indeed had an impact on those in our organizations, both from their personal lives and through their work. And leaders must recognize they can make a difference. You can make a difference in how that trauma impacts your team members. Remember that wall I mentioned? Some of your team members are clinging to that wall. Maybe you are clinging to that wall, keeping it fully intact as long as possible. But imagine if you said to someone you supervised, this work is really hard. Let's make a plan to help you take care of yourself. Let's build that wall, or build the door, in the wall together. I envision workplaces where leaders are trained in trauma-informed adult classrooms to recognize the impacts of trauma and how to support members who are dealing with those impacts. But I wouldn't stop there. We have pockets of supervisors and leaders who work hard to minimize the impacts of trauma, but the heavy lifting and structural work should be happening at the highest levels of organizations. Writing self-care practices into policies, employee evaluations, training team members on the impact of the work and ways to manage it, creating a referral list with valuable information about the resources available, like Catherine mentioned, and encouraging people to use them. Those are just some of the structural examples of how we can support our team members, just like my organization supported me when I sprained my ankle all those years ago. Yes, it involves work and it involves time if you do it right. As a leader, though, I've learned those hard lessons firsthand, and I've also seen with my own eyes what the research tells us is true. Trauma-informed organizational culture leads to improved retention, improved morale, and much higher engagement. I hope you agree the investment of your time is far outweighed by the benefit to those you lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. You're awesome. Thanks for being here with us today. Dos minutos. de reflexión para ustedes. And then we will bring up our next speaker in about 1 minute and 45 seconds. All right, Joe, give me about 20 seconds. I'm gonna do a little chatty chat and then we'll bring up Jarmel's bio. So I'm just gonna kind of feed in just little details along the way. None of these 7 people knew each other before. And behind the scenes, I made a text group while you were at lunch. And it's fascinating watching the support that the 6 people are giving each person as they leave the video in front of us. I'm holding it together up here, Anne, but I love you all. All right, got Jarmel up there? See your beautiful face, my man. I can't see you. There he is. All right, friends, I'm going to introduce you to Jarmel Bell. MSE is a dedicated educator and visionary leader behind Bell's Education. With a strong background in education, he empowers individuals through transformative workshops, focusing on essential life skills, personal development, and effective communication. Jarmel's mission is to guide people in understanding and managing their emotions, fostering personal growth, and achieving resilience. As the author of 2 insightful books, I Am Me, Know Who You Are, and Ascension, he brings profound wisdom to character development and emotional well-being. Jarmel's philosophy revolves around shared social and emotional learning, inspiring positive change, and equipping individuals to navigate life's challenges with enduring impact. Jarmel, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, J-Dub. Ladies and gentlemen, I once read a quote by Maya Angelou that states, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." And so when I pondered this quote, I thought about, life can be really hard at times. And so then I started to think, have you ever noticed that some things in life are really tough to talk about, especially when it comes to experiences of our service members? Many of you and all of us as a community carry very unique burdens, but there's a particular group that I would like to highlight today. And it's a group that grapples with profound pain, and it's our military kids and the families. I just want to take a moment and imagine, for you to imagine being that military child, constantly moving from base to base, dealing with the overwhelming weight of parental deployments and instability, yet unable to fully express your feelings to those around you. It's a silence that it goes beyond typical childhood struggles. It's a void of feeling maybe unheard, or you might feel unseen or unable to even find a stable anchor in life. This void is often concealed beneath that child's brave face that we see every day, and they're smiling to their mom, they're smiling to their dad. All the while, inside, they feel alone or unsure about the future. Let me share a deep personal perspective on this issue. See, I had the opportunity to witness the contrasting experiences of military children during my time in the Air Force. There were those households that had two parents. And so when it was time for deployment, sometimes they were afforded the ability for one parent to stay back. But what about those households that had a single parent? They face additional challenges and additional struggles because of the transit nature of the military life. It's always bringing constant change and impacting the sense of stability within a kid. And in some of those cases, there were individuals dealing with challenges of their parents' deployments and uncertainties that come with it. While during the military, I didn't personally have this situation. I just remember growing up, and in third grade, my mom and my dad got into it, and my mom left, and it was just for a night, and it was a sleepless night. And I remember being at school the next day, not knowing if I'd ever see my mom again, not knowing anything. And so at recess during this day, it was so tough for me because all my friends were out playing football, but I had nothing inside of me. The fear of not knowing where my mom is she okay? When will she be returning? And see, it's easy for us to talk to our kids about deployments and changing and leaving and uprooting from base to base with their friends. And one thing that we lack is really expressing the social and emotional impact it has with us. And so today, I want to talk to you about some things that we can try to equip our kids with and our family members. And it's called post-traumatic growth. And I like to phrase it in terms of maybe a fourth grader. And it's just us finding the good things that happen in life when there are some really, really tough and scary moments. It's like seeing new flowers blossom in a garden after a storm, showing that even hard times, good things can still happen. And so today, I want to dive deep into the incredible power of PTG, the power that can change not only our lives, but the lives of countless military members and their families, with the frequent relocations and the deployments and uncertainties and the demands. See, this thing called resiliency, and it goes beyond the ordinary. And so there's two things I want to highlight with post-traumatic growth. One, trying to help our kids and our families discover inner strength through the challenges of military life. It's the power of knowing that you can overcome, finding a strength that can be a guiding light through the dark days, allowing our youth to process all these emotions and find a support system and learn how to find meaning in relocation, finding meaning in separation, finding meaning in feeling alone, finding a positive change, enabling our children to grow and make a lasting impact, and learning how to face this adversity. The second part, I just really want to highlight one thing that helped me get through the night that my mom left was that next day at school, I had a teacher that loved on me. Building stronger relationships. See, in this complex landscape of military life, building stronger relationships becomes essential to growth. The challenges demanding connections, right? Human connection is so important. Our kids and our parents and our friends, like building a community, because we know deployment is coming. We know relocating is coming. What are the support systems? What are the preventative things are we building and equipping our kids with that allows them to be prepared for this change? See, I want us to imagine a world where the struggles of military life are not hidden, but are celebrated for the incredible growth that they can bring. See, I want to aspire a world where compassion and understanding the light and the path forward for our kids to be able to excel. That's the growth. See, military is really applauded by our civilian counterparts. Why? Because we learn and we have a discipline about us. We have a sense of excellence about us. And those are the things that have to be celebrated. We understand that our kids may feel alone and lost at times. But if we can continue to reinforce and equip them with the things that they need to be able to grow, then those moments that may be traumatic for them, they can be moments of growth for them. See, they may not be able to control the challenges of military life, but they can rise through the adversity. Thank you.
Thank you, Jarmel. Thank you, my friend. We love you. So by now, after 6 of 7, you're at that point of how do they differentiate and which ones do I connect with? I'm guessing by now that that example I gave earlier of buffet or listening on scan, as a non-parent, I'm trying to relate to what Jarmel said. As someone in this room whose child is dealing with something that Jarmel alluded to, you at a different frequency. So if we can take about 90 more seconds, questions you have, ideas you've got, clarifications you want, resources you know you need. I'll get you to write a few of those. And then Jody, in about 80 seconds, we will bring up the next speaker. All right, folks. I did it yesterday. I'll do it again today. Thumbs up, thumbs side, thumb down. How we doing today? All right. If you saw anything I didn't see, let me know. Go backwards. We got a bio up there for D, my love. And D, if you will share your video, we'll get to see you smile at us and do a little wave. There she is. All right, here we go. Dee is the Managing Director USA at Ignite Purpose. She has followed a dynamic career path. Beginning as a community outreach worker, she passionately educated at-risk communities about infectious disease harm reduction. Her role shifted to grant writing, securing funding, and advocating for hepatitis C testing and treatment among at-risk inpatient psychiatric patients. Dee brings a diverse skill set enriched by academic qualifications, including a master's in executive leadership and associate coaching certificate, alongside studies in humanities, psychology, and business. Today, she champions trauma-informed leadership, neuro-inclusive practices, and psychologically safe workplaces. Dee's impact is felt through her executive coaching, consulting, and comprehensive training, all dedicated to elevating workplaces and empowering individuals. Dee, thank you for being with us today. Start over and unmute yourself.
Let's start again. So sorry about that. So thank you very much, JW. For most of my life, I've lived with a medical condition called endometriosis. About 3 years ago, before the pandemic struck, I lived in constant pain. It severely impacted my quality of life. I faced the complex and very emotional decision of having a hysterectomy, which meant in my 30s, I was going to have early menopause. So I healed from my physical pain during the 6 weeks, and I traded that physical pain in for hot flashes, mood swings, and weight gain, which is just absolutely fantastic when you're in your 30s. At this time, I was also going to graduate school. I was full-time. I was also working full-time, raising a family, and we were also primary caregivers to my in-laws. So we had a lot going on. As I stepped into 2020, I was so burnt out. For those of you who may not be familiar with the signs of burnout, here's what I personally experienced. Overwhelming exhaustion, emotional disconnection, anxiety, depression, headaches, stomach aches, insomnia. I wasn't really productive at that time, and I had a lot of memory lapse. So the pandemic, of course, amplified my symptoms, and I had that extra layer of grief. I had lost a dear friend unexpectedly early on. My mother-in-law died suddenly, and I was very close with her. And then my father received a terminal diagnosis. So by the summer of 2022, I found myself at the lowest point that I've ever been at. I was alone. I felt alone. I felt abandoned. I felt anxious, depressed. And I really had a lot of feelings of unworthiness. So honestly, trauma-informed leadership is important to me because I want to be the person I wish I had. The human experience is incredibly complex. There's no manual for being human. There's no navigating system to help us live through our challenges. Challenges are a part of life. They're inevitable. They are going to happen. Some of them are minor inconveniences, and some are simply devastating. Regardless of the size, these challenges leave their mark on us, and they can help shape who we are, and they can also change our trajectory. What makes a difference during these challenges is having a human to support you and give you real human support and guidance. Without it, these challenges can leave us feeling isolated, fearful, hurt, and terribly alone. Considering that we spend about a third of our lives at work, it becomes crucial to have leaders who understand trauma and can provide a safe and non-judgmental space filled with empathy and support. Looking back now, I needed that safe space. I needed a space to share my thoughts, my feelings, and my emotions, a place without fear of judgment, ridicule, emotional manipulation, or shame. I needed someone who could empathize with my very real human emotions on a human level, and then offer real human emotions in return. I needed someone to remind me of my own strength. My journey has taught me that trauma-informed leadership isn't just a nice to have. It's an absolute necessity. Without it, there's a significant risk of declining mental health. The difference you can make by simply being present and empathetic is immeasurable. Trauma-informed leadership is about creating an environment where employees can feel comfortable discussing their struggles, knowing they will be heard, understood, and supported. As leaders, we must provide our team members with that safe haven. We should be present, actively listening, and empathizing with their feelings, not only their hardships. It's about fostering trust, honesty, empathy in the workplace. When someone shares their struggles with us, it is a precious gift, and we should handle it with care and compassion. Sometimes just a meaningful nod of understanding and a comforting silence goes a long way. Embracing trauma-informed leadership can transform workplaces into nurturing and resilient environments. It's about recognizing that we all face hardships and we all face challenges in life, and that empathy and understanding can make the difference. Not only should we normalize conversations about trauma, but we should also normalize seeking professional help. It can be hard to suggest to someone to seek mental health, and it can also be hard to hear that suggestion from someone else. But by normalizing these conversations, the shame and fear dissipate. So as I conclude, I leave you with a small call to action. Later today, or in your 2-minute reflection, take a moment to reflect on a hardship in your life where having a trauma-informed leadership would have made the difference for you. And then commit to being that leader that you wish that you had. Thank you for listening, and I wish you guys the rest of a fantastic day.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you. We're going to do one last reflective process here, and then we're going to thank the folks, and I have an idea for that. So if it take about 90 seconds, if there's anything from the 7 speakers that you want to grab while you're in the moment, throw that in your journals. We'll come back together. Everyone will come up on video in about 90 seconds. Jody, you too. All right, can I get everyone to come up on video?
Just down here.
Everybody up on video. I'm missing Jarmel. Are you still here?
I need to. I need to be made a host again. I can't unlock the video.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Jody's
I'm on it. I'm on it.
Okay. Everybody sing good light. Good. Who else is missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh my gosh. All right. Hey folks, thank you so much. Everybody up on screen at 9, thank you so much. We're gonna give you a Beal thank you. Here it goes, guys. All right, gang, here's what I was like. I'm gonna keep that video on. I want you to break into small groups of 3 or 4. Have a couple of chatty chats. If anybody wants to go up to the computer and say a message to any of them, that will be here. I'd love to stay in this for about 7 more minutes in the energy of sharing groups of 3 to 4.
Log on. Let's see. Are we chatting for the?
No, it's chatting.
Okay.
That's if you want your face on top.
Okay. How do we? Is the camera on? Or the video on? It sure is. It is.
Yeah, we can see you.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to say thanks. I mean, I took a lot of notes and a couple of things that stood out to me was the laser technique. I think that's something very tangible and actionable that I can use. And then also figuring out, I think it's the last piece of that return and reset. A lot of us take in a lot of folks' trauma, and how do we make sure we're taking care of ourselves after those experiences? So those were 2 big takeaways for me. And again, I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here and sharing with us.
Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you all so much. Really appreciate everyone's, like, a lot of you shared very personal stories, and that had a lot of impact, and definitely it can relate in a lot of ways personally, but then also, you know, putting on our wannabe leader hats and trying to think how I can apply this when I'm listening to whatever someone brings me that day. So I really thank each and every one of you for what you shared.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick, thank you all. We appreciate you pouring into us and sharing your stories with us. In particular, Jarmel, definite connection with me. Our families sacrificed tremendously, allowing us to do what we do. The sacrifices they make, the struggles they have, going to new school systems in the middle of the school year, walking into a classroom, being the kid that nobody knows, the deployments, all of that. Yeah, it tears at me. So thanks for sharing that, Jarmel. And thank you all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. What's your name?
Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
All right. You too.
All right, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Hold on. Come on. I'm speechless, and I'm a speaker for a living. I love you all. I'm amazed by you. Jody, thank you. Everyone on video. That was just incredible. Hey, Jody, will you get one more photo of us all before we go?
Yeah.
Do you
Ready,
have the
ready.
ability to do that? Yeah.
Oops. Wait. Oh, please. Ready, smile. 1, 2, 3.
All right. I'm going to leave this on. I'm going to wander around and see if anybody else wants to say hi. That was the group commander, Jarmel, who just came by. So yeah, you got a one-on-one with the group commander. How's that? And then a couple of other folks. I'm going to walk around, wander around, see if anyone wants to come up. For those of you who have to go, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Great job. I hope you all feel the bliss of completion and the adrenaline. But, it's like a lot of nice conversations going on in the room, and you all inspired different parts of the heart and mind. It's really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody, for keeping us all organized and getting everything kind of situated. I know it wasn't easy. I really, really appreciate it. You did an amazing job.
My pleasure.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, happy to be your producer anytime. Yeah. This was fun. It was rapid fire, and you all had different perspectives that you brought, and personal and really engaging. So I think it's a lot of content for all of them to be able to play with and connect with. Like, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about this format is I felt like, I usually just talk by myself and I figure, oh, people take what they want and, leave the rest. But this really is something for everybody. With all the different framings and perspectives shared, I think it's really valuable.
I have enjoyed each of you. I have to log out, but I look forward to possibly working with all of you in the future. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Great job.
Bye,
Jarmel.
I'm going to sign out too, Jody and everyone. Thank you all. I'm so grateful. Thank you, Dr. Womack. You're awesome. All right. Bye.
Bye, Donna.
Morning.